What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Marvelous, and I'm here to give my opinion today. Today, we're going to do a quick review. I'm going to try to make it quick. On the Daily Wrap Up crew, they had two people come by to discuss black culture in the sense of how it is or is not in existence. So, we have Dave Anderson, and we also have Mr. Frank Zanu, who are going to discuss and their opinions and differences and where the point of contention lies. Clearly, the point of contention is saying that black people have no culture. This is Frank's claim, and he's going to explain it to everyone here on the panel, and Dave's going to try to help navigate through that. Um, but I'm also going to put my 2 cents in as well, because I have some pretty good opinions, and also how to, I would say, bring the idea forward and also complete what Mr. Zanu's philosophy is, because it's actually, in my opinion, I think his philosophy is incomplete, and that is why it is resonating with a lot of people in the wrong way. But let's get into it.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Bro Chat, where we can have real and honest conversation, get away from the monotonous conversations about dating and relationships and all the goofy stuff we talk about that's entertaining. But you know, we here to have some real conversations today, man. No book of. I go by the name of Eli. As always, we got Ace with us.
Yes, indeed. The Daily Rapper Crew, the greatest core with the conversation you've been waiting for. You heard? Ace the GOAT.
Okay. You was waiting. You was waiting all week to say that, wasn't you?
Nah, I just thought about that.
Yeah. Last but not least, we got Jill.
You had it actually.
Hey, yo, shout out to Jude. Last I heard about him, he was even was in an accident or something like that, some mental health issue. But it was like a what do you call that? A GoFundMe they had for him. So this is a while back. That's how long I've been off the channel. But I'm glad he's doing well. I'm glad he's back on the channel. I'm glad things are good. Shout out to him, man.
Oh, so now I gotta come. Hello, have a great day. Nah, what it do? It's your boy Jew. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. You heard?
Listen, today's conversation is long overdue. Intellectual class with two brilliant minds that are different perspectives about the black agenda. On one side we got Dave Anderson, on the other side we got Frank Zenu.
Yes.
Let me start here with Dave. Can you explain to the audience who you are and why you are qualified to have this conversation?
I feel like my qualifications are I'm a foundational Black American, 22-time best-selling author, radio broadcast professional, husband, father, and liver of the Black experience for the past 5 decades. You know, I don't think I need a doctorate, but I got a couple degrees.
Okay.
It's all right. Aside from that, I've been living, baby.
Okay.
Let's go.
And Frank, can you let the audience know who you are and why you are qualified to have this conversation?
My name is Frank Zano, of course, from Benin Republic, West Africa. I have lived in about 9 African countries. I was trained to be a journalist, so I've been a reporter for the Washington Times for 13 years. It allowed me to live in Asia, Europe, Africa, and now, of course, I live in the United States of America. So I have a link. It seems to be the only bridge who can compare what I know from where I came from and then seeing people that we're taking from that place now. So I can look at the two and be able to spell out the similarities and what the root cause of some of the problems are.
The first topic I want to get into.
And that's actually very important. It's good to know he has that experience. I too myself, I got some experience around the world, see different cultures, different ideas, different people, different behaviors, and being in the military for 18 years, being surrounded by so much different life, opportunities, man, it's a blessing. I'm grateful for it all. But on the flip side, though, like yes, I am not someone who has validation or credentials in college and stuff like that. No, all you're getting from me is my marvelous opinion. Okay, I've talked to plenty of people. I've gotten a lot of testimonies. I had a lot of self-reflection of myself as well, and this is what pretty much started my channel. So yeah, I've been studying myself and human behavior since 2019. But that's as far as my credentials go. Anyways, let's continue this.
Is how do you define culture? And under your definition, do Black Americans have a unique culture? Let me start here with Frank.
Well, I'm glad you used the word unique culture. So yes, I'm sure you all saw the episode, that got everybody on my case, except the
I saw the episode as well. once he pretty much told me what his definition of culture was, which he's going to get into right now, I just disagreed because I don't agree with the premise of how he defines culture. He's literally ignoring the other half of it for whatever reason. Um, I can kind of understand his mindset because I know where he's coming from an intellectual standpoint when it comes to concept, ideas, and structure. But you can't ignore what moves those ideas, and we're about to get into that right here.
This gentleman was the only one brave enough to say, well, look, before I cut him into pieces, let me give him a chance to come into the studio and explain, to the audience.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. People say, oh, you're from Benin. And I'll say, yes. And I say, what's Benin culture like? And then I freeze. Because there's nothing like a Benin culture. Or if you're from Ghana, or if you're from Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, there is no such thing. But if you say, oh, you are Yoruba, I said, yes. What is Yoruba culture like? Then he or she is able to start to talk about it. So there are similarities which I'm going to really explain, and you can see it. So I'm first going to ask. He's been on my show. He's seen my. I do not put together that show, which I fund from my own pocket because I just want to say things to make people angry. No, it's because I really care. And sometimes I get frustrated about what I have seen from the continent where I come from and what I see here about my great-great-great-grandfathers, uncles, sisters who were taken away. So African Americans would say, well, you're not one like, yes, I know, but I'm walking past my cousin, my nieces every day. So what is in my head is what is in their head. And what I'm explaining is something that they must listen to when I say there is no such thing as African American culture. They're like, what do you mean? Well, culture for me is not dance, food, clothing. Those are not cultures. Culture is a worldview. The worldview is what drives people. Their relationship to wealth, to money, to community, to marriage, to family. It's the worldview they have. That's
Okay, let's dissect that. The ideas, the concepts, the coordination. Yes, this is all important. You got to have a sense of direction and to know where you're going to be in the world, how to define yourself, how to look at yourself. The knowing aspect of what it is to be human and what it is to live. Yes, that's very important. Um, but you have to also understand, you got to have the motivation. You can have all the inspiring ideas and concepts and all that stuff, but what moves you? That's also just as important as what you use to go forward. Just saying. But let Frank have it.
the foundation of a culture. And number two, there is no possibility for you to have a culture without having a language. So if you
What? Well, first off, to be fair to him, okay, language in itself is a great way to coordinate things, to be more precise, have accuracy, have clarity, and all these things. Very true. But this is where we differ, okay? When it comes to language, yes, you can say, okay, who created the alphabet? I think it was Latin. Um, I think it was basic. We'll figure that out later. But let's just say, okay, you have the alphabet. Okay, then someone says we're going to use uh, these characters to create words or express words in this meaning, and then you define it, and then before you know, you have your own language. Okay, so you created a language, English. Let's use that as an example. Okay, cool. But it doesn't just stop there. Now that we have the tool, let's determine how we use that tool. So now that we have, let's say, this language, this vehicle that we drive, well, thank you for the vehicle, but now I'm going to customize it and make it my own. Yes, I did not, I did not make this vehicle per se. I'm not the creator of that vehicle, but guess what? I still made it my own. How I drive it, how I want to choose to express it, how I want to choose to use it, it's all mine. People will know that this is my car when they see it. So they're gonna know. It's not just simply, okay, you're not the one who created the language, so you don't have no culture. No, that's that's incorrect. And again, if you're just looking at concept and ideas and structure, just because they did not, black people did not structure the language, but they, you could say, remixed it for the most part, because that is a thing, and you may not want to acknowledge it because you feel like, well, you still did not invent the car per se, right? You still did not invent it. Yes, we did not invent that particular concept, but we did make other things with the ideas that were already presented to us. Yes, we expressed it in our own manner, in our own way, and you cannot deny that. You may not respect it for some strange reason, but we still did make something new. And this is another disingenuous part when it comes to concept and ideas. People act like the origin of things don't matter. Like I would say, like I think it was just a debate last month about this when it came to who responsible for the kimono dress. Japan was like, the kimono is ours, but then you have someone in China saying, well, the idea came from us. Technically, the origin of the kimono is in China. You see what I'm saying? So you can always keep going back to figure out who is actually responsible for this idea. Because right now, there's nothing new under the sun. It's all just discovery and expression for the most part. But that's for another day. We'll get into that later. I'm just letting you know, Frank, this is where your philosophy falls apart because you're not willing to acknowledge the other side of culture for some strange reason.
Read most of the books written by brilliant African Americans, the first thing you see, the headline is the traumatic thing about slavery is not merely changing your environment. The traumatic thing about slavery is not merely asking you to work long hours. The Russians had hard labor camps in Siberia. Many countries, Japanese had it, where people work and they die. The traumatic thing about slavery is one thing only, which everyone has written about. They took our language away. They took our culture away. They took our history and religion away.
Okay, so yes, with Black Americans specifically, and other groups too who were colonized, their structure was destroyed. Yes, but their culture is just basically incomplete. I would say what you would acknowledge as culture is incomplete, or it's not something in the sense that doesn't have any sustainability because it's unstable. The culture is unstable. That's really what your real gripe is. Black culture, as far as what you identified, is unstable, and I agree it is, but it still exists. The culture still exists, although there is no real structure in place. There's bits and parts of little ideas and some rules, you could say, some taboo things, but for the most part, it is imbalanced, unstable. But continue, Frank.
That is a traumatic thing about being a slave. Now, if they took those things away, how and when were they recovered? So I met a gentleman, I was attending a conference in Singapore, and I met this gentleman who was a Korean sociologist. So we started talking during coffee, and I said, oh, I lived in Korea for 2 years when I was reporting. And he said, oh, wow. And then we started talking. I don't remember how the conversation came about when he asked me. He said, so your country was colonized? I said, yes, and my country, his country, Korea, was colonized by the Japanese for 49 years. And he said, what did you guys, meaning referring to people in Benin, what did you lose as a result of colonization? And I froze and I said, whoa, nobody has ever asked me that question. So I said, Prof, you tell me, and that will give me some idea. And he said, no, we're Koreans, we're colonized by the Japanese. So when they left, all we lost was time. We just went back being Koreans.
So there's some context there. Okay, so you had about 49 years, and you were colonized by a group of people who had probably similar values and similar philosophies and ways of life, just expressed differently. As I said earlier with the example of the dress, the Chinese dress, and how it evolved into a kimono in Japan. Okay, you didn't have to look too far. You didn't pull too far from what it is. Even the language and the characters. Some of the characters are very similar, at least when it comes to numbers and stuff like that. So again, you had fragments of your structure still intact. And again, this is only 49 years. Okay, you have people who have information about things after 49 years have passed. Okay, this be genuine about the question. Now, for Frank, this what people have with black people, you had two different, entirely different tribes of people on total opposite ends in their approach to life, and one being colonized by the other. Okay, and for a very, very long, much longer, continuous, extensive time period of 49 years. Okay, this is not even fair in comparison. 49 years compared to what's happened, it's not even close. Okay, but besides the point, yes, there was no remnants left. How could you recover something? You have to give people of Africa more grace, okay, when it comes to the structure and what was destroyed. And then also, even more so, you have to, and this is one thing I think he does acknowledge, the Europeans had things that were just better, structural wise. The ideas and concepts were better than what they had in Africa. And it would be that way in terms of the whole world. The whole world acknowledges the ideas and concepts that Europeans have are greater, are better, and are moving the world in a progressive manner. You have to give credit where credit's due. There's a reason why they move the way they move. It is also unstable, and I'll explain that later. But for the most part, yes. Um, what would motivate you to want to, especially when you understand that black people and people of Africa are way more grounded than those who are European. Um, they're not the same. I would say like they're not as warm, if that makes sense. It's they're not emotional in a sense of feeling. You can find it's just in normal interactions. I mean, of course, I think with in America, especially with media and things like that. Like back in the day they would say black white people were stiff, they had no rhythm, they were boring, food was not as tasty. They were just sterile. They were very rigid, very meticulous. Everything was had to have policies and rules and just all types of structures and systems in play. That's just how they operate. That's their culture, right? um, but it's a bit overwhelming, and it doesn't really provide a sense of freedom. It's actually the opposite, in my opinion. It's very controlling, which kind of also speaks to how we see them. They're very controlling, very dominant, very conquered focused, and wanting to control things and to take things and become entitled to said things. But this is not to speak to people in general. It's just more of the idea of what drives that society, and with it, and why I see that it's unstable, because if you see how their ideas are affecting the planet. Now, yes, they're trying to create more ideas to prevent themselves from doing more harm, but in my opinion, they're just creating more problems. Trying to fix a solution, trying to, you know, it's almost like when they try to make medicine, right? And even with that, oh my God. Trying to fix problems, and not be rooted and grounded by looking at certain symptoms and attacking the symptoms and not having a cure for anything. They're just creating more problems. Some people having more diseases, and it's like, oh no, take some Tylenol for a headache, and it's like, well, warning, this may cause this, this, and this as well. And it's like, God damn, dude, I only wanted a headache. You mean to tell me this medicine will give me worse issues if I don't drink water and do this? You know what I'm saying? It's just, again, it just speaks to how they are and what moves them progressively with just being so top heavy up here, ideas and concepts and systems. That is pretty much their philosophy, their way of life, how to approach life. There other things come second nature to them. So when it comes to art, when it comes to entertainment or things like that, it's not a priority. They're more driven to utilizing resources and trying to make life easier through right now science, technology, and also like that. But they're just very different in their philosophy and approach. Blacks are way more grounded, are more loose, more lenient, um, more feeling based, more emotional. There's no real structure. It's everything is a feeling. It's all discernment through how you feel. even when you approach a black person, it's always like a head nod or something like that. White people don't really understand the head nod thing. Again, it's just a sense of greeting, comfort, feeling, familiarization, I see you type thing. You know, you've seen the avatar, it's like I see you type shit. But it's more of an acknowledgement, awareness of your existence and your presence. That's all it is. It's more of an acknowledgement of presence when you see a head nod for the most part. Um, but it's just but again, this is not to say that white people can never have rhythm. They have no soul, quote unquote. They're not robots, you know. It's just more of what they prioritize first. And same thing with blacks. Not to say that black people do not have concept and ideas and stuff like that, but it's what the majority are mostly driven by. They're mostly driven by what they feel. And Frank kind of understands this a little bit because he explains in previous videos about cause and effects and why he believes black people are the way they are in general. And that goes down to behaviors that can be passed down genetically in your DNA. And I'm not trying to get to the pseudoscience of it all, but and it definitely goes way above my pay grade in terms of trying to explain that type of science, why certain behaviors that your ancestors had can be also enrooted in you. Like, from it's my father, right? My father didn't raise me, but I have a lot of his mannerisms, a lot of his everything. Um, Even the way we think is very similar. You know what I'm saying? But this man did not raise me. He has no influence over me. I barely knew him like that. So it's very peculiar, um, strange, and even to have that kind of thing appear. But I digress. Let's get back in this video real quick. See what Mr. Anderson has to reply to Mr. Frank in this topic.
And from that day, I could tell clearly, what did we lose as a result of colonization in Africa? What did you lose as a result of slavery? If you don't fix that which you lost, you're not going to make any way forward. So in Africa, the countries that exist today were never there. They force a group of tribes that have their own distinct cultures to become a country. So they've lost their distinct cultures, trying to have a culture as a collective, which is never going to happen. So for me, first and foremost, when I talk about culture, I'm talking about a worldview, meaning the collective have to have one reason they are here on earth. And that thing is what drives them. It's what makes them wage wars, conquer people, anything. You ask anybody, in 1884, it was the Irish journalist who finally found a word to describe the English man, which he called the manifest destiny. That exceptionalism of the Englishmen, now you call them Americans. The American exceptionalism is the American culture, that they believe that God put them on this earth to colonize and civilize others. And that's what drives them to go out there and try to give freedom and fight for freedom and do all the things they do now.
I find that very interesting. I wish there was a white person, a white American, that can explain and try to tell us what is he saying about your group right now with that exchange that you guys want to conquer, want to dominate, and this is your way of life. Now, I would never put that on white people particularly, but especially my white Americans, I want to put that on y'all. I understand that y'all guys want to preserve things. I think y'all have more of a preservation. I think you guys are fear driven when it comes to preserving your ideas, your traditions, your faith, and all that stuff. But as far as trying to conquer, I don't necessarily think that's the majority, but it's also tied into your concepts in terms of structure and order. When it comes to order, what you're willing to do in order to protect said power and order, you will conquer and to do other things as well. And there is also that sense of, like, you know, the earth is ours to exploit and to do what we want with it, to learn more about it, to explore and to go and to do things, you know. Although it may destabilize the planet in some ways because we are too curious in some manners, and some things we just can't let go. And then there's also the thing that drives us, and that's like saying, should we or why not? You know, there's the wisdom that is lacking when it comes to um, that group. It's in any group that's unstable. Just being real with you. This is my opinion. Any group of people that are extreme in one end, whether it is to pursue knowledge or those who are very emotional for the most part, they tend to forget to ask questions and say, should we? But we go forward and say, why not? That tends to be the issue with Americans, or I should say, what he defines as European culture. Um, they don't ask. They just do. Even a nuclear bomb. You know what I'm saying? When that thing was created, it's purely fear driven. Okay, I'm gonna just be real with you. The things that is really causing us as a people, as human society, is the 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 balance between fear and desire. Um, I would say Europeans struggle with fear, which is why they're mostly in their head, thinking progressively, always thinking ahead, trying to alleviate things, make life easier, and et cetera, et cetera. With the other side of that, you say black people, for example, their issue is with desire. Um, very things that are attractive to them. They don't really have a sense of control through that agency. It's the lack of controlling themselves when it comes to, like, let's say, like diamonds and jewelry and things of that nature, nice things that make them feel good. You know, it's hard um, for most, not all. Of course, like I said, I think there's some people who are stabilized and have self-control, and that's what this all comes down to: one having control over their fear and desires. I think it just being, looking at it, I think that white people have a tendency to be more fearful, and black people tend to be more stuck on desirable. Or it could be flip. It could be the other way around. Who knows? It's just my speculation here on this thing. Continue.
Good or bad, I'm not giving any value. You ask the Japanese, he will tell you their worldview. So their dance and food, and no, those are not. I came from a place where, as a young boy, I was given a worldview, and it guided me everywhere I went. So when you meet me outside my culture, you can tell from my behavior, he must come from a culture that believes in XYZ. So a culture becomes more pronounced when you are outside the group. As an individual outside your group, people must be able to tell.
Okay. Dave, what is your rebuttal to that?
It's not so much a rebuttal, it's a difference in philosophy, right? It is, and I think we got to thank Frank for even coming here, because I know for some people this would be very adversarial. Frank and I, we talk all the time. We're very, very good folk. And there's a couple of things that I got to push back on simply because they were not available to us. See, when Frank was born, he inherited a culture. We had to make one with what we had. Some of us, if I were to swab any one of you.
Okay, I'll stop right there. He said that he inherited a culture, and he did not. No, we didn't have to. Don't give into what Frank is saying, because this is going to mess your whole thing up. All right. We all inherited a culture. We all inherited expression. We all inherited our emotions. We all inherited different concepts and ideas. Do not get caught up in the ego of it to say that it was we that created these ideas, and it was we that created certain structures, or it was we. It's just like, honestly, to tell you the truth, and this is the honesty part, okay? There's real no we in terms of what you're really hinting at, which is race. You understand that's a social construct, okay? And that's what kind of muddies the whole water with this conversation, because I look at my own heritage, okay? And this is what America did very well, and I wish that it's just holding us back. And I don't know if it's intentional. It's kind of weird because it's kind of self-sabotaging in a way. But to divide the people up in the way that they did, when they said that, the one drop rule for blacks, that was so stupid, because it never left room for nuance, and that's the truth of the matter. Like, I am not 100% of anything. I think for the most part, no one really is. But with whites in general, if you had 1 ounce of black in you, you were black by default. That's just no debating that. But that makes no sense. I could be 90% European, only 10% black, and I'm black. Yes. So wait. So it's that doesn't add up. That doesn't make no sense because you mean to tell me to be affiliated in any sense of the word with black, you're black by default. Yes. But in any going the other way around, if there's any affiliation or any association with whites, it's not a possibility unless there's nothing in you. So you have to be pure in your sense of the word to be white. And for them, that was yes. That right there was a contradiction itself. It's not true. If looking at my history, it's kind of like okay, you have cultural ideas and concepts and stuff that's in my DNA right now. That was inherited from many different tribes, different families. Okay, all that culture, all those ideas and concepts that were passed down to me. All right. You may look at me and say that's a black man because again they told you to. They never left room for nuance for any of us, and this is what causes us to divide and become unbalanced and also confused in a lot of ways too because it's really quite counterproductive if they actually just understood what it was that we could been. In my opinion, I'm gonna wrap this up. It's only been 30 minutes. Um, Looking at what Europeans represent, and then looking at what blacks represent. If whites were the inspiration, blacks are the motivation. Now, what happens when you actually join the two together? They become stable. They become balanced. There is a great sense of um, peace and understanding. But by keeping us separated, for whatever reason, I don't understand because you want to talk about you want a country that is thriving, but yet you separated citizens in law by saying things like, like I talked about earlier, the whole one drop rule, you're not going anywhere. And I think that's because this country was created on fear, more so the Europeans, and the whole preservation, structures, rules, systems, and all these other things that they created to move forward while also causing damages to the earth itself, all for the betterment of their own ambitions, um, because they refuse to ask the question, should we? They say, why not? You know, and it's that selfish approach to life itself where Frank doesn't even see the flaw in that. He mentioned war and conquering like it was something that was supposed to be a part of life, or at least stable. Like that was it is a way of life. I'm wrong. Killing us, it's a part of the decisions that we make in life, but it's not something that stabilizes in any sense of the matter. An action that would cause stability. It's actually the opposite. It's a sign of instability. But again, this is what Frank's idea is of culture. He's missing the other half of it, and if he's seeing that for the most part, yes, you have blacks that are hyper emotional. In my opinion, they're very emotional people. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just their view, their way of life. And you have to acknowledge that. That's just who they are as a people. They're very emotional. There is no real structure. A lot of it's free. Hip hop, which is one of the greatest gifts ever given to Earth, in my opinion. I think it's the freest expression of all time, which is why I think this comes up later on about, for the most part, like why is it that we don't have control over said hip hop? Well, I just told you, it's the freest expression. It's something that everyone is free to participate in, and its only discernment is how you feel about it. So when someone's really about hip hop, they recognize real recognizes real, and that's what those who are participating or have resonated with hip hop, know it. You know what I'm saying? It's just something you know and what you feel, more so. There's no real rules. It's governed by a feeling. It was created by a feeling. You know what I'm saying? Yes, there's some rules. You know what I'm saying? You got the 4 elements, now 5. I don't really consider the 5th, in my opinion. Rap, that's not real hip hop, but it's pretty much been adapted as a genre from music into hip hop. That's for a whole nother story, but I digress. I'm only going on to say this, man. Like, yes, blacks will complain about something that has no control being controlled by those who control things. It's it's our creation, but they control it. Yes, that's what's gonna happen. It's because of how hip hop's designed. That's exactly right. But more so is, why don't we have structure to do what we want to do with it as well? Like, yes, we create new ways of expressing hip hop, but there's no ways of containing it or distribute it in our own ways that we are trying to exploit on. Because again, that's just not, again, the majority of us don't try to approach hip hop, and that's because that's not how it was produced or made. It wasn't made to be distributed through a concept and idea. It was just a way that we can express and talk to each other. That was our pain, our language, our struggle, our protest. It was everything. You know what I'm saying? It was us that you were hearing. It was our soul, it was our essence. That's what hip hop is. So it's not something that's to be governed and given systems and rules to. So we're not gonna be able to do that per se. And yes, the world's gonna continue to exploit it because of what it is. It's the freest expression, and we should be proud of that in the sense of what we were able to contribute and help people rediscover through hip hop. Again, that's part of the culture that Frank I know would disagree with, but it's a real thing. It's a powerful thing. It's a great motivation. Like, just off for example, 50 Cent, Many Men, that one song, you can play that in every genre through AI, and it's gonna pop every time because of what it is. Just saying. But I digress. Um, this was an interesting take from Mr. Zanu. Shout out to him. Shout out to Mr. Devanson. Sorry I didn't really listen to you so much, but I can tell where you're kind of going with your approach, in the sense of your argument, with sympathy, letting them know why black people are what they are. I get it, the history and things that were done, and we lack structure, but you have to acknowledge that part that Frank's hitting at. We are we have an unstable culture. Ultimately, that's what it's coming down to. But white people also have an unstable culture. The reason why that things appear in America to be very well is because yes, they are utilizing our essence, our energy, to be the thing that they lack. I tell you right now, if there were no black people in this country, it would be pretty sterile. Rather, it'd be pretty boring. Just in my opinion, yes, it would be probably the safest place, most predictable behavior, um, everything as far as opportunities, ideas, concepts, all that would exist. But it'd be like black and white, like watching TV. But it will lack color. It'd be dull. It'd be, at least for me. For some people, because again, this is their way of life, it wouldn't be dull to them. They would accept it. They would like it for what it is, 'cause that's just who they are. But it would not appeal or attract other groups of people. They would have no appeal to America. It wouldn't be as great without us being in between the lines and adding color to it. Just saying. That's pretty much what our group has done and contributed. We made it very attractive. America's attraction is due to our expression, our the way that we are able to um, have us look. Like, honestly, with every business, it's all there. You gotta still, like, even with money, you gotta attract, you gotta move, you gotta incentivize. That's the part of culture that Frank is missing. It's like, I don't think you want. I don't know why he's not acknowledging that part, the other half of what makes America so great. The only thing like I said is unfortunate is that they separated two groups. Like, I couldn't imagine what America would be if we actually were infused, not just racially in a sense of like, mixed groups of people. Even though that's happening now, and yes, I believe that is one of the best things that could ever happen in terms of a group of people. You take the best elements from both groups and you come together, and wow, you have something very special there. Just in my opinion. I'm not trying to advocate for intermixing and stuff like that, but I'm just saying, if we're actually able to share with one another, get involved more so with one another, help each other understand our strengths and weaknesses, and build each other up from them strengths and weaknesses, we would be a much better nation. in my opinion, rather than picking at each other for our weaknesses and highlighting those things and using it against each other and building resentment and tension and all that stuff unnecessarily as a people. We, we need to stop that, man. Like I said, I don't know what we would be if we're able to unite, but with the way things are going around the world through the concept ideas of what the Europeans have instilled in the West, it's individuality. And honestly, Frank can look into this too as well if he's listening to this. It's killing Japan. That's one of my favorite countries. I've done a lot of research about Japan and understanding where they used to be and where they're at right now. And it's quite sad. I'm actually very depressed because I really wanted to move there one day. For lots of different opportunities and the people. I lived out there for a couple of years, being military. Um, they're losing their way because they're individualistic. They used to be, you know, very sociable, very understanding, but a lot of it, honestly, it's fake. There's a word in Japan for what that is. I forgot what it's called, but basically, it's like it's an act. It's performative. It's to save face. So, someone, let's say, example, if my child got in trouble at the school and I got called there, I would go through the whole thing of like, don't do that again, and I apologize, and this will not happen again. And then my child would acknowledge, yes, I apologize. It will never happen again. It's just sorry, whatever, right? And then the next following day, that child does the same thing again because it's just all performative. It's not real. It's all fake. There's a lot of fakeness, and even within the families, that's been told to me. A lot of things within the family is not real. They're not genuine with themselves. It's all just to keep the peace, what they call peace, but it's not really genuinely peace. It's deception. And there's a lot of depression going on too in Japan. Young men who are, there's a lot of stuff I learned about Japan. They have lost they're starting to lose their soul, and it's so sad because from what I've seen expressed in anime, because that's really the remnants of what they wish they were. What you see projected in anime was what they were in the past. They are not like that at all in real life. That's all fantasy today. It's what they inspire to be through their art. It's the shadow of what they once were, which is very sad because again, they know of it, but they don't experience it in their real lives. It's just a fantasy at this point. And us as Americans, of course, because all we see is the smiles and the things and then treatment. Like, oh, they're so nice, they're so kind. And it's like, it's not what you think it is. It's an illusion. But anyways, let's just talk about Japan. Sorry about that. Went off a little bit. But just explain to my point about culture and what erodes it and how it's, how Frank is able to give so much credit on the idea of just because these guys have structure, concepts and ideas, predictability, and all these other things, that's what makes a culture great. No, they are literally destroying some of the soul essence of other cultures, like Japan, for instance. Okay, their influence through fear and everything like that, that's provoking them to move in such a manner, it's also doing the rest of the world. Fear is a bitch. But anyways, that's all I have for now. It's already been 50 minutes, almost 43 minutes. I'm gonna stop it for here, and I'll make a part 2 for this, because this video right here, this was a long one. This one's like 2 hours and 23 minutes and over than 10-minute review. I have to learn how to cut these things up, chop them up, whatever. But that's all I got for today. Peace and love, people. Take care. I'm out.